Good morning, everyone. Today's Friday. It's actually a holiday here. It's the Maori New Year called Matariki. And we decided that's a perfect excuse to go get some more local culture. We're going to go to Zealandia, which is a very large nature conservation area. It's got a full pest control fence around it that keeps out even mice. So all of the animals and plants that live inside of this area basically live on an island. This is our tour guide, Julia. She's going to do most of the talking in here. Right now she's telling us about how the New Zealand mistletoe gets planted onto trees and how they grow. Then we checked out this dam.
And so we had to start from scratch to develop it. And what we did was had a scientist, and he had in a container, one of those big containers, and he built fence designs, and he put the animal we wanted to keep out on one side and food on the other side, and see what they would do to get in. We have to pretend we're on the outside of the fence here. And so I found out that cats jumped to 1.8 metres, so our fence was 2.2 to keep out very athletic cats and a few of the two-legged ones as well. And then we had to think about the climbing animals, such as the possum here. Again, the possum was bought for good reason. They bought it for food and for fur, and they didn't realise that our trees had no protection and the damage the possums do. So he built this, what we built was this called a top hat, and the possum can't get over the ledge. But while he was watching, one possum got up to here, tried to get over, couldn't. Another possum jumped on the back of that possum, and over he went. So he had to bring it further out to stop the two possum effect. 3 possums, the third one falls off. Because Wellington is such a windy city, we couldn't have a solid barrier. We had to let the wind through, so we went fine mesh, and this is small enough to keep out baby mice. They became extinct on the mainland very, very quickly. And we were gifted 40 about a year after the fence went up, and they're doing very well in here. We think we have about 200. This is what you hear at night. That's the male, and that's the female. And it's back to us. Usually where there's one, there's two. They often hang around in pairs. And it's very smart sitting down in the bush like that, because their predator is the Tuatara, the New Zealand falcon. Some have found their own way in since. This is the one that we're looking at the moment, the pied shag, the wharuhi, which means noisy and messy. Just wondering if it's a nest or not. They will nest all year if it's good enough conditions. The shag that's sitting there, out on the edge, see how it's got that mottled coloured chest? That means it's a juvenile, it's young. It's not really ready to fly out into the big wide world yet. When you hear that boom, 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 you know you gotta zoom, zoom. Most are on islands, and there are only so many breeding spaces, and the TΑNE population is only about 500, so they're still monitored. Only 500 left on the planet. They were thought to be extinct, but were rediscovered in 1948, way down in the Murchison Mountains. And since then, their population has been well looked after, but despite that, they're very slow breeding. It's because they've been through that genetic bottleneck, and often the chicks won't survive, or the eggs are infertile. And also they're very slow breeders and long-lived. They'll live for about 25 years, and they have one egg a year, maybe one every second year, and so it's quite hard to build up a population again. And so what they do to help them is the older birds, which are not as quite as fertile, are removed from the island, so that frees up a nice, lovely place for a new couple to produce. And so what do you do with the older birds? Well, they come to places like Zealandia and have a nice retirement village. And they're such a good example as to why New Zealand birds are so liable to extinction. If they were here, we'd be looking at them and they look really quite tasty, big and round and fat. And they look at us and go, we care. They're just pottering around doing their own thing. They don't have the genes to be disturbed by mammals. And we do have enough now to start reintroducing them into national parks and places where they're safe, such as the Kaharangi National Park. And what they do is they spend a lot of time working out the genetics and pairing them so that they'll produce good babies. Well, I think they had about 8 or 4 pair that they released into Kaharangi National Park, where they immediately split up with their partners that had been chosen for them and didn't like them at all, or went off. One went off by itself and refused to live with anyone. The others chose other partners. So all the genetic, all the engineering all went out the window quite quickly. Made up their own minds as to what they wanted to do. These will be the domineering giants of the forest in about 400 years' time. Little beaks, and they'll just come in and suddenly appear on the side of a tree, and their noise, their call is very, very high. A lot of people can't hear the noise they make. The males are beautifully greeny colour, the females more yellowy brown. And that's the sort of typical place for a kiwi burrow, under the roots of trees, and they go on for about 1 metre or so at times. This one may come out up here, we don't know. See if any hihi or koromako, this bellbird might turn up. This is a feeding station. Their tails poke straight up. Yeah. Very cute little bird. Posy, sitting up there. Sitting right up on the
We planted a Tuatara about 25 years ago when we first moved onto our land. Just about 15 metres. Okay.
A lot of New Zealand plants have a juvenile, a young stage, with these leaves often like this, very few leaves and all twisted and curled in. And then when they reach a certain height, they grow the adult leaf. There's a clue. Not a bellbird, it could have been a bellbird. And they think this was developed or evolved with protection against moa browsing. So you've got all the twisty juvenile leaves, and once they get above the height of a moa, then they'll grow the adult leaves. Female sitting in front of her burrow. I don't need to be in this, so I'll shift back. And she will, sitting out there hoping to get a bit more sun, because they'll bask during the day and get, because they're cold-blooded, and then they get a little bit more active at night. They really do not move very much, but if something disturbs them, then she just quickly would retreat back into the burrow. He doesn't move much, he lies around in the sun.
When I disturb him, he just goes back into his room.
lying about in the sun. Well, it's not a bad life, and with that life, they can live well over 100 years. So, and then they just wait for food to wander past their noses. We don't know how old they do live too, because we haven't studied them long enough. And they were around 200 million years ago, looking very much like they do today.
Okay, I really think these things are dinosaurs. Found only in New Zealand, the Tuatara are the last surviving members of an ancient lineage that separated from other reptiles during the Triassic period. Walking into Zealandia, you feel like you're walking into Jurassic Park. They lived in the Triassic era, which was before Jurassic. They are older than most dinosaurs. They're older than T-Rex. Tuatara are sometimes referred to as living fossils due to them being so old. It has a beak as well as a third eye on top of its head that you can't see. We think that crocodiles and alligators are old. Well, they've evolved since they've been here. But the Tuatara, they haven't. They've been here since the Triassic period, and they're still the same. These are dinosaurs. We literally saw a dinosaur today.
The trees we see poking out at the top at the moment are rewa, New Zealand honeysuckle, and they're the dominant species at the moment, dominating the canopy. But as the other species grow through, that will change. New Zealand bush developed without the honeybee, so we don't have that evolutionary effect on our plants. So they're mainly pollinized by insects or reptiles, or by the wind, or by moths at night. Because we do have our native bees, but they crawl around on the ground and they don't pollinate. And we don't have a honeybee, so we don't have that. So the flowers are not developed to attract honeybees. It's a good example. We're always talking about the pests and the things that are coming and devastating our bush. These have a little caterpillar feast on this plant, but because they've evolved together, the plant has a defence. So the little Lupa caterpillar comes into the beautiful kawa with its heart-shaped leaves and starts to eat it. The plant recognises it's being eaten, and it sends a chemical, a hot chemical, into the leaf. And then the caterpillar can't eat the whole leaf, it goes off. And it's hot to be here, so it goes and finds another leaf. And that's why you'll find it with lots of little holes. But MΑRA in particular, realised that this chemical released into the leaves is very good for lots of different things. And nowadays we tend to make tea from it. You know, kawa tea. And if you wanted to make your own, and you really like strong, hot, peppery things, you'd choose about August as the best time. A leaf with lots of holes, because that'll have more of the peppery flavour. And a leaf like that will be very mild, it won't have as much in it. It's also, where I grew up in Taranaki, it was known as the mornings, meaning M-O-U-R-N, morning leaf. And you used it on your head in places when you were grieving, you're burying someone, because the bitterness of grieving and the bitterness of tears tastes like the bitterness of the kawa. So we can't expect them to have a couple of months. Come back in 2 months when their breeding season's on, there might be a few more about. But we did, thanks to the sharp eyes of various people, we did get to see a few. And so I hope you enjoyed your time.
Thank you. Great tour at Zealandia. Our tour guide was Julia. She was excellent.
Yes, she knew so much and answered all of her questions.